Hey, what it do, world? What it do? Bless up, man. Um, doing a little reading, a little studying, and on a tablet, something really stood out. It was I don't want to say a composition, but it was a commentary study over a particular verse that we all know, Proverbs 31. So I wanna read that and put it in context. Put it in context of culture, put it in context of westernized culture. Now, when you're talking westernized culture, you're talking about, the influx of certain ideas and certain ideologies that, to some, have kind of destroyed aspects of the family unit and the family dynamics as it relates to man, woman, child, relatives, and stuff like that. Because I always make it bigger than just the nuclear family, because that's a very modern creation. I love talking about this stuff. Anyway, I wanna go back to Genesis. Yeah, if you don't believe in the Bible, you don't believe in, any of that type of stuff, because and names have been changed, but that's neither here nor there. This specific point I'm making is going to tie into relationships, and I think one of the biggest things that they've kind of corrupted was the culture behind it, and the culture that forms the foundation of it. So, of course, in Genesis, when you go to the creation aspect of it, in Genesis 2 and 18, it says, of course, it's not good for man to be alone. I will make him a companion. I will make a companion for him, um, a helper suitable to his needs. And that's been dissected in a few ways, because the Hebraic word for that, I think is Ezer. I don't want to say it's Kenigbo, but it's when you look at the Hebraic word, the Hebrew word for that, really what that scripture is saying is, it's like I'm making a someone like a mirror of him. Someone is like like a reflective state of him. Um, and to take it a step farther, some have said kind of like a savior for him, and not a savior in the sense of a literal sense, but someone who can, in a way, help save him from his state of not being good, because the Father said it's not good. So it's very, very interesting when you dive into the Hebraic words. That's why, if you can, even me, I need to learn. It is really, really good. If you learn what some of these words means, even the Most High, what His name mean in Hebrew and stuff, because this westernized version of just about anything, but especially religion and wording, has destroyed some of the meanings of some of this stuff, in the sense of it's just not right terminology. So go to Proverbs 31. Like I said, this is when everybody, you don't even have to go, just listen. Proverbs 31, the virtuous wife, the virtuous woman. I want to frame this in a proper context. I think one of the things we're dealing with now in our society, and probably for the last 30, 40 years, and I say this quite often, is a reshaping of women's mind, and men to some degree, but a reshaping of our women mind, to where the first priority is a degree and a job. And whenever your first priority overtakes the Most High, it overtakes the culture, and when I'm not the culture community, it overtakes building a family. It will eat you up from the inside, because as good as money is, as good as job it is, as good as trying to move up the corporate ladder is, you gotta have a solid foundation. And in essence, the solid foundation is, or should be, the family. It should be your connection to the Creator. It should be your connection to a friends, and to that foundation. So they've kind of twisted it, where when that foundation is twisted and corrupted, not only does that not happen, arrogance steeps in, haughtiness steeps in, disrespect steeps in, false ideology, steeps in, into where you get to a state where we're in now, where it's, if you're on social media and you see some of the stuff that's getting posted, It's really like what's happening. And when you don't build those strong foundations, you don't build those unit, that family, that loving one another, being there for one another through the ups and downs, because it's hard. It's very hard, especially economically. We know what the data says, but when you don't be there for one another, your children end up suffering. And I know different coaches, different people, and they talk about how many of the students don't have fathers. And I'm not saying it's the woman's fault, but the point I'm making is we gotta try to get back to building a strong foundation. I think this biblical commentary of Proverbs 31 will give us some type of insight. And the author is coming from the Hebraic sense of understanding the words and the context behind it, not just reading it. So let's start with, and like I say, he's breaking it down from a Hebraic sense. Let's start with 31 and 10. And this is commentary. This is Clark commentary, and he's viewing it from the Hebraic sense. And I'm gonna skip past the Hebrew words, but he said number one is her general character. That's the first principle in the lesson of Proverbs 31 was the woman's general character. Number two, she is a virtuous woman. W-O space M-A-N, woman. The definition is a woman of power, a woman of strength, and the Hebrew word of that is Iset Chayil. Iset Chayil, a strong or virtuous wife, full of mental energy. I thought that was very powerful. That woman you hear so much about, she's full of mental energy. She's able to process things. Let me keep going. I don't want to interrupt. Number two, she is invaluable. Her price is far above rubies. No quantity of precious stones can equal her worth, nor diamonds, nor rubies, nor any of the precious metals and materials in this whole world can equal the power of a good woman who has a strong mental energy. She's strong and she's virtuous. Let's continue. Commentary on 31. She is an unspotted wife. The heart of her husband safely trust in her, for he knows that she will take care of that proper provision, of course, made for the house. Nothing is wasted. He is not obliged to go out on a predatory excursion to provide for his family at the expense of neighboring tribes. Let's continue. And of course, when we all know when we read these things, it's also cultural. So meaning this was a long time ago, but you take what you can and use what you can't. Take what you can, then spit out what you can't. She will do him good, verse 31 and 12. She will do him good. She has her husband's happiness in view constantly. And you guys, think about this. If you say this stuff nowadays, you'll get thrown out and people try to bring out pitchforks. And we know why. What is the culture tending to? But the point I'm making is the culture is really harming more than it's doing good. I'm going to repeat this one. She has her husband's happiness in view constantly. She recompenses all his kindness to her in beneficial acts. For kind words, she returns kind deeds. Her good is unmixed, and she will do him good and not evil. Her good is not capricious. It is constant and it is permanent. Ooh, boy, that's good right there. It is constant and it is permanent. While she and her husband live, his heart safely trusts in her, for she will do him good all the days of her life. And this is her general character. So that's why it says, who can find a good wife. And, in the beginning of that verse, because it's saying it's not just her acts, her whole character defines how good of a person she is. Let's continue. This is a commentary from Proverbs 31:13. She seeketh wood and flax, and she worketh willingly. This is the second part of her character, given to the particulars of which is composed. She did not buy ready woven cloth. She procured the raw materials, if wool, most probably from her own flocks, if flax, most probably from her own fields. Here she manufactured, the entrepreneur side of a good woman. Don't neglect that. Here she manufactured, for she worked diligently with her hands. And all her labor is cheerful service. Her will, her heart is in it. See, that's the power of also, yeah, like I said, we know the data, but that's the power that also comes from trying to work for yourself and your family is you put your whole heart and soul into knowing that what you give is going to get in return because why? You're doing it for you and your family. Let's continue. It needs no arguments to prove that women, even though the highest rank among Greeks, Romans, and Israelites, work with their hands at every kind of occupation necessary to support of the family. Let's continue, guys. I'm going to repeat that one. Among the Greeks, the Romans, the Israelites, worked with their hands at every kind of occupation necessary for support of the family. This kind of employment was not peculiar to the virtuous woman in text. Let's continue, guys. This is Proverbs 31:14 commentary. She is like the merchant ships, meaning she acts like merchants. If she buy anything for her household, she sells sufficient of her own manufacturers to pay for it. If she imports, she exports. And she sends articles of her own manufacturing or produce to distant countries. She traffics with neighboring tribes. So she's a businesswoman mentally. She understands the what it takes to be a businesswoman, what it means to merchant, what it means to buy and sell. That's very powerful too in a small way. She riseth also while it is still night, and giveth meat to her husband and a portion to her maidens. Meaning, she is an economist of time. This is some good stuff, boy. I love this. I hope y'all enjoying this. She is an economist of time. When the nights are long and the days are short, her family not only spend a part of the evening after sunset in domestic labor, but they all arise before daylight and prepare the day's food, that they may not have their labor interrupted. To those who are going to the fields and to the flocks, she giveth the food necessary for the day. The Hebrew word is tarif, Teref. Pray, Prew, in a term taken from hunting, the object of what was is supplying the natural wants. And to the women who are to be employed within, she gives the kind of work they are to do, the materials out of which they are to form. So in other words, she keeps everything in order. Let's continue. Verse 5. Proverbs 31:16. She provides for the growing wants of her family. More land will shortly be needed, for her family is growing up. And having seen a field continuously to her own, which was of sale, she estimates its worth and purchases it in good bargain. And she pays for it by the fruit of her own industry. Wow. She does not restrict herself to the bare necessities of life. She is able to procure some of its comforts. She plants a vineyard that she may have wine for beverage, for medicine, for sacrifice. This is also procured of her own labor. Whatever goes out brings worth in and barter, not buying in her chief mode of traffic. Proverbs 31:17. She girdeth her loins with strength, meaning she takes care of her own strength, of her own health and strength, not only by means of useful labor, but by healthy exercise. She avoids what might enervate her body or soften her mind. She is ever active and girt ready for every necessary exercise. Her loins are firm and her arms are strong. Verse 31 and 18. She takes care to manufacture the best articles of the kind and to lay on a reasonable price that she may secure a ready sale. Her goods are in high repute, and she knows that she can sell as much as she can make, and she finds that while she pleases her husbands, she must increase her own profits. Guys, I'm gonna be honest. And now, guys, the girls, whoever reading this, ladies, this woman is a businesswoman. This is a woman astute in business. Wow, let's continue. She is watchful, she is careful, her candle, her lamp burns all night, which is a great advantage in the case of sudden alarms. And in the times and places where there were so many bandits, this was very necessary for family regulation. Perhaps some work were carried on during the night, those employed sleeping in the daytime. Thus, labor never stood still. While some slept, others worked. This was no unusual thing in ancient times, and it prevails now. But alas, little children are often thus employed to help us to support their indigent parents and to fill coffers from the unfeeling taskmasters. Verse 31:19. She layeth her hands to the spindle. She gives an example of skill and industry to her household. She takes the distaff that on which the wood or flax was rolled and spindle, and that she twisted the thread with her right hand. So in other words, she's making the material. She's doing what she has to do. Let's continue. Let's go to verse 20. Just kind of read up, and then give a short summary. She stretches her hand out to the poor, meaning she is truly charitable. She knows that in every portion of a man's gain, God requires a lot for the poor. And this is not given. God's blessing is not in the rest, and she is not contented to give common alms. While with one hand, the Hebrew word for yad, she relieves the general poor. With the other hand, yadiyaha, or let's see, yadiyah, could be butchering that a little bit. That's a Hebrew word. She gives to the needy, lenity to the afflicted poor. Let's continue, guys. Verse 31 and 21. Hope you guys are enjoying this commentary, especially because it's using the Hebrew words. That's very powerful. She is not afraid of snow, meaning she is not anxious relative to health and the comfort of her family in the wintertime, having provided sufficient clothes to each in the winter and the weather, in addition to those who are warm. Let's see. For all of her household are double clothed. Let's continue. I'm going to skip up and we're going to go to 31:23. Her husband is known in the gates. She is a loving wife and feels for the responsibility and honor of her husband. I'm going to repeat that one. She is a loving wife and feels for the respectability. I say respectability and honor for her husband. Let me say that again. She is a loving wife and feels for the respectability and honor for her husband. That's a very powerful point because see, that's why I speak against this arrogant, I gotta get my mind culture, because what happens is you no longer even can lay down your burdens for that other person and for the overall family in some cases. And sometimes that's called for. Let's continue. Her husband, he's an elder among his people, and he sits at the magistrate at the gate. He is respected not only on account of the neatness and cleanness of his person and dress, but because he is the husband of a woman who justly held in universal esteem. I'm gonna tell you this: the man who got a good woman, especially because it sometimes, I'm gonna tell you the real truth. Men can see from afar when a man has a good woman, and from afar, man to man, we honor that. We honor that. Just like he can see when a dude got a bad wife. Let's continue. And her complete management of household affairs give her husband full leisure to devote himself to the civil interest of the community. Her complete management of households affairs gives him full leisure to devote himself to the civil interest of the community. Let's continue. She opened her mouth, kindness. All the articles manufactured by her are double perfection. They're strong. They're elegant. She opened her mouth with wisdom. He comes now to the moral management of her family. Listen to this one, guys. She is wise and intelligent. She has not neglected the cultivation of her mind. See, it's not wrong for a woman to get educated. It's not wrong but the point is, what are you doing it for? And how can it also help the family in large when you have one, if you have one? Number two, she is amiable in her carriage, full of good nature, well-tempered, and conciliating in her manners and address. That's also important. Not just that you got that master's degree, but are you still kind? Are you still sweet with it? Are you still humble with it? Are you still graceful with it? In her tongue is the law of kindness. This is the most distinguishing excellence of this woman. Oh, I'll repeat that again. In her tongue is the law of kindness. This is the most distinguishing excellence of this woman. There are very few of those who are called managing women who are not lords over their husbands. That is a nugget that needs to have sauce with it. I'm going to repeat that one, guys. There are very few. I'm going to change it. I'm going to change this whole thing. There are very few highly educated women who are not lords over their husbands, tyrants over their servants, and insolent among their neighbors. But this woman, with all of her eminence and excellence, was a meek or quiet spirit, blessed woman. Verse 27. She can instruct her family in religion. She can teach them in labor, in house, diligent in business, fervent in spirit, servant of God. All of it go hand in hand. She knows that idleness leads to vice. Therefore, everyone has his work. Everyone has his proper food, that they may work well. Continuing on. Verse 28. Her children arise and they call her blessed. She considers a good education next to divine influence. Y'all, I hope y'all are getting blessed by this stuff like I am. I really do. I really, really do. She considers a good education next to divine influence. And she knows also that if she train up a child in the way that he should go, when he is old, he will not depart from her. Her children are well fed. They rise up and pay due respect. They are taught to fear the Most High in obedience to his testimonies. Therefore, they call her blessed. So they are of decent, orderly, respectable religious behavior. And that's very important. You always want your children to model what's in the home. You take your children to come out in public and they act crazy, they're doing wild stuff. That is a very reflection of you at that house. So that's very important. Her husband is so satisfied in her conduct toward himself and his household and his business and their children that he praiseth her. He shows her sensible of excellence and encourages her in her work by the accommodations he bestows. Let me say this, guys. This is rare stuff. I don't want to get cute. This is rare stuff. That's why it leads with the poetic notion. Who can find a good woman? Verse 29. Many daughters have done virtuously. This is undoubtedly the speech of her husband, giving testimony to the excellence of his wife. Her husband also, as he praised her, saying, many daughters, women have done virtually, with all due propriety as wives, mistresses, and mothers, but thou, my incomparable wife, excellent of them all. The Hebrew word vith, alith, al, kalana. Yeah. But thou hast ascended above the whole of them. Thou hast carried every duty, every virtue, every qualification, and excellency to a higher perfection than any of whom we have ever read or heard. I mean, you're one of one, baby. I've never seen a woman who is a student in business, in God, in industry, in education, in child rearing. I'm putting on my spin on that. And let the reader seriously consider the above particulars as specific under the different heads of supervision, as he would probably, as he would be probably of the same mind. But high as the character of this Jewish matriarch stands the preceding description. She was a woman of great learning and information, and of depth of mind, and of reach of thought, seldom to be found among the daughters of Eve, not even amongst the sons of Adam. Boy, that's a bit right there. Let's continue, guys. 31 and 30. Proverbs 31:30. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain. Kind of summing up that character, getting ready to close this thing and lead it home. Favor is chian, Chen, the Hebrew word. Grace of manner may be deceitful. Many fair appearance of this kind is put on. Oh man, it's good. Assume for certain secular or more unworthy purposes. Many people can act like they humble. They can act like they for the family. They can act like they this divine woman who's humble and meek. But that they just putting on a show. It is learned by painful drilling in polished seminaries, and being the effect of mere physical discipline. It continues while the restraints least, but it is Hebrew word sheker, Sheker, a lie, a mere semblance, an outward varnish. It is not the effect of internal moral regulation. It is an outside, at which the inside murmurs. So outside you're looking like the inside hating it because that's who you really are. In which, because not ingenuous, it is a burden within itself. Beauty, the Hebrew word Hayophi, Haiyophi. Elegance of shape, symmetry of features, dignity of mien, beauty of countenance, all are hibal vanity. Sickness impairs them, suffering deranges them, and death destroys them. But a woman who feareth God, that possesses true religion, has the grace that harmonizes soul, that purifies and refines all their tempers and passion, that ornament of beauty, a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God a great price. She shall be praised. This is the lasting grace, the unfading beauty. And he closes with this. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her own works be praised in the gates. This may be a prayer, they said. May she long enjoy the fruit of her labors. May she see her children's children, and peace be upon Israel. God bless the Hebrews. And let her own works praise in her gates. Let what she has done be spoken of for memorial of her. Let her bright example be held forth in most public places. Let it be set before the eyes of every female, particularly of every wife, and especially of every mother. And let them learn from this exemplar what men have a right to expect in their wives, the mistresses of their families, and the mother of their children. Amen. Very, very good stuff, guys. Very, very good stuff. And that was a commentary going to the Hebraic words and of course in English. I will sum it up like this. I think we live in a time where education is being pursued. It's all about me, myself, and I. It's all about being independent. And, that stuff started about 20 years ago. But I often ask the question, I say to myself, how does this impact our families? How did this impact our children? And most of all, how did this impact culture? Now, it is a reflection of the culture that was set in motion by others. But the farther we get into this, what I would consider Babylonian type of culture, the more you get from the rooted nature of who we really are. And you know who suffer more than that? Everyone. The men, the women, the children, and the family unit, and most of all, the foundation. Something to ponder, something to think on. Peace.